All right, so today we're diving deep into the world of AI, but um, we're not talking about like self-driving cars or robot butlers or anything like that today. We're going down a slightly more, how should we put this, a controversial path. We're talking about AI-generated nude videos,
Mm.
specifically the tech behind those like deep nude applications, like the one offered by nudify.me. And before anyone thinks we've gone off the deep end here, I want to assure you that we're approaching this with a purely analytical lens. Okay. We're here to break down the technology and just like see what makes it tick.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a subject that pushes buttons and sparks debate. And, understanding the mechanics behind it, I think that's the first step, in having those bigger conversations about it.
Absolutely. So imagine this, right? You've
Yeah.
got a video of a Korean girl dancing. Perfectly innocent, right? Well, hold on to your hats, folks, because this is where things get interesting.
Yeah, our source material uses this very scenario to kind of break down how AI can be used to digitally undress someone in a video. And it's a lot more complicated than just slapping on a filter, let me tell you.
Okay, so walk me through this. How does the AI even begin to do that?
I think the easiest way to think about it is the AI has to become like a master of disguise. And to do that, it needs to learn everything about the human body clothing and how those two interact.
So it's like sending the AI to fashion school and anatomy class all at once.
Pretty much, yeah. So first, the AI has to figure out what's clothing and what's skin right. This means recognizing all sorts of fabrics, patterns, textures, and how they drape on different body shapes.
Whoa, that sounds incredibly complex already. But then does it just erase the clothes and poof?
Not quite. It's not just about removing the clothes, it's about replacing them with a believable nude body. The AI needs to match the person's skin tone, body shape, and make sure everything moves naturally as they move in the video.
Hold on. So it's not like it has like a library of naked bodies to choose from or something. It's actually generating a unique digital body for each video.
Exactly. It's creating a digital double. And to do that convincingly, it needs a ton of data to learn from. Think like millions of images and videos of diverse body types, poses, lighting conditions, all fed into the AI's brain, so to speak.
It's like building a giant digital anatomy textbook, but with way more moving parts.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And remember, this isn't just a static image, it's a video. So the AI has to maintain this illusion of realism across every single frame.
So we're talking about massive amounts of data and serious computing power here. This isn't something you could do on your average laptop, right?
Oh, definitely not. We're talking about high-performance systems that can just crunch through all this data in real time. And this brings us to a company that's really pushing the boundaries of this technology, Nudify.me.
Nudify.me. The name itself is a bit of a, well, let's just say it definitely grabs your attention. What's their approach to all of this?
Well, they're all about making this technology, more accessible and user-friendly. Their platform focuses on automated clothing identification and motion tracking, essentially the building blocks we've been discussing, but packaged in a way that anyone could potentially use.
And this is where things start to feel a little unsettling, wouldn't you say? I mean, the source material even mentions Nudify.me's goal to simplify these solutions and make them even more widely available.
Yeah, and that's where the ethical tightrope really comes into play. Because while the technology itself might be fascinating from a purely technical standpoint, the potential for misuse is huge. We're talking non-consensual deep nude videos, revenge porn, the spread of fabricated content.
Oh, man, and it's a whole other can of worms that we need to unpack. But
Yeah.
before we go there, I want to pause for a second and just ask you, the listener, a question. Thinking about what we've learned about this technology so far, what's the first thing that pops into your mind? Is it excitement about the possibilities or worry about the risks? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Picking up on that idea of the, accessibility, it really begs the question, like, what happens when a technology this powerful becomes so readily available? What happens when practically anyone can create these kinds of videos?
Yeah, that's what's kind of keeping me up at night, honestly. It's like we're handing out Photoshop on steroids to the entire internet. I mean, the implications for privacy and consent are just huge. Would you even be able to trust anything you see online anymore?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And our sources touch on the fact that the legal landscape surrounding deepfakes is still very much in its early stages. There have been lawsuits and things like that, but it's like the Wild West out there right now.
So it's clear we need some safeguards, right? Like, what are some of the ideas being floated around out there to try and get ahead of this?
Well, some experts are focusing on developing ways to actually detect these manipulated videos. They're essentially building algorithms that act like digital detectives, searching for those little subtle inconsistencies that often give away AI manipulation.
That's pretty clever. But I can't help but wonder if it's a bit of a losing battle. Yeah. I mean, the people who created these tools are probably working just as hard to stay one step ahead of those detectors. It's like a never-ending game of cat and mouse.
Yeah, it's true. There's this constant back and forth in the world of cybersecurity, and this is no exception. That's why a lot of people think it's going to take a multi-pronged approach to really tackle this issue.
Okay, so what else is on the table? Like, how do we even begin to regulate something like this?
Well, another idea is to implement stricter regulations on how this technology is distributed. For example, companies could be required to verify user identities or maybe limit access to certain features, similar to age restrictions on certain websites or online games.
Right, that makes sense. But of course, anytime you talk about regulation, you run into concerns about censorship and freedom of expression. Like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, it's a very delicate balance, no doubt. And that's why it's so important to have these open and honest discussions about the potential impact of this technology. We can't just bury our heads in the sand. This is something we need to address head on.
It almost feels like we need a whole new digital literacy curriculum in schools. We need to be teaching people how to be more critical consumers of information, how to spot fake content, and how to verify sources.
Oh, absolutely. Media literacy is becoming more and more crucial than ever before. The average person needs to be aware that not everything they see online is real. They need to be empowered to question the source of information before they share it or react to it emotionally.
Especially when it comes to something as potentially damaging as a DeepNude video, right? The consequences for the person depicted in that video could be devastating, both personally and professionally. And it's not just about being careful about what you share. It's about being mindful of the information you consume and how you interpret it.
Right. It's about cultivating a healthy sense of skepticism. Don't just take everything at face value, especially when it comes to content that seems sensationalized or provocative, Take a moment to consider the source, check multiple sources, and if something feels off, trust your gut.
Yeah, it's like we all need to develop our own internal BS detectors. And what's fascinating to me is this goes beyond just protecting ourselves. It's about preserving the integrity of information itself and trust in the digital world. What happens when we can't tell what's real anymore? I mean, it's a recipe for chaos.
It really is. Think about the implications for journalism, social media, even our personal relationships. If we lose faith in the authenticity of information, the foundations of our society start to crumble.
It's kind of scary when you put it that way. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, If AI keeps getting more and more sophisticated, are we headed for a world where we can't trust anything we see or hear?
It's a possibility, and that's why these conversations are so important. We need to be thinking about the ethical implications of this technology, how it's impacting our lives, and what kind of future we want to create with it rather than being controlled by it.
Right. Okay, well, before we spiral into a full-blown dystopian nightmare, let's circle back to nudify.me for a moment. I mean, they're the ones leading the charge here. And their goal of democratizing this technology is, well, it's a little unnerving to say the least. What's their responsibility in all of this? Do they have any safeguards in place? Are they even thinking about the potential consequences?
Yeah, those are all really important questions. And those are the very questions that we'll be tackling next. We'll be diving into nudify.me's practices, their stated goals, and examining their vision for the future of this technology.
Stay tuned, folks. We're about to go even deeper down the rabbit hole. Okay, so we're back, and it's time to really put nudify.me under the microscope. I mean, they're at the forefront of this whole DeepNude technology. And as we've been discussing, their work raises some serious ethical red flags.
Yeah, for sure. Their mission statement about making this technology, user-friendly and accessible to everyone. It's a little bit like giving everyone a loaded weapon without any safety training.
That is a scary thought.
Yeah.
So what are people specifically concerned about when it comes to nudify.me and how they operate?
Well, transparency is a big one. Their website is super vague when it comes to the actual, details of their technology. And there's practically zero information about their data collection practices, how they ensure user consent, or what steps they're taking to prevent misuse.
So it's kind of a black box. We see what goes in and what comes out. But the process in between is totally shrouded in mystery. That's not exactly confidence-inspiring.
Exactly. And this lack of transparency makes it really hard to assess the ethical implications of what they're doing. Like, are they using data sets that were obtained ethically? Are they properly vetting their users? These are all crucial questions that just remain unanswered.
And it's not just privacy advocates who are sounding the alarm, right? I've seen articles where even tech experts are voicing some serious concerns about the potential fallout from Nudify.me's work?
Oh, absolutely. There's a growing movement within the tech community itself that's calling for greater accountability and oversight,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to applications like this that have such a high potential for harm.
So where do we go from here? What can be done to ensure that this technology is developed and used responsibly? Because ignoring the problem doesn't seem like a viable option at this point.
Well, I think for starters, companies like Nudify.me need to be much more upfront about what they're doing. They need to be transparent about their practices, where their data comes from, and the steps they're taking to prevent misuse. Think of it like a digital code of ethics.
I like that, a digital code of ethics. But wouldn't it be even more effective if there were like actual laws and regulations in place to address these unique challenges posed by deepfakes and AI-generated media?
Absolutely. We need strong legal frameworks that can keep pace with this rapidly evolving technology. I think that's the only way to ensure that there are real consequences for those who misuse these tools.
So it sounds like we need a multifaceted approach. We need companies to step up and take responsibility. We need robust legal frameworks. And perhaps most importantly, we need to keep having these open and honest conversations about the ethical dimensions of this technology.
I couldn't agree more. This isn't just a tech issue, it's a human issue. It touches on fundamental questions about privacy, consent, and the very nature of truth in the digital age. And I think finding solutions is going to require a collective effort from individuals, companies, and policymakers.
It's a tall order, that's for sure. But as AI continues to blur the lines between real and fabricated, the stakes are only getting higher. We can't just sit back and hope for the best.
Exactly. The future of AI is something that we are all actively shaping through our choices and actions. This isn't some predetermined outcome. It's a future that we are creating together, and it's up to each of us to decide what role we want to play in that process.
Well said. And on that note, we're going to leave you with a final thought to chew on. As this technology becomes more prevalent, how do you see it impacting your life? What steps can you take to protect yourself and those around you from potential harm? It's something we're thinking about as we navigate this brave new world of AI.
It really is. Because ultimately, the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's a future that we're all creating together.
Well, that's a wrap for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored the complex and often unsettling world of AI-generated nude videos. And as always, stay curious and stay informed.